Hello everyone, welcome back to Crafting with Jeanine. Here is another bow in our beginner bow making series. This one I'm going to show you how I personally do it to get measure for your spikes for your bow every time and to get them to come out looking as uniform as possible. So like this one, see how that one, they just fit just so. I'm going to show you exactly how I do that to get the look of the spike to be pretty uniform. So I'll show you on another one and I'll start this one. So what I do is I take the bow and I get a rough estimate on how wide the bow is. So this bow is about 3 inches wide. So to get my spikes, I'm gonna cut my spikes 4 inches long. So that, and then I pretty much just put my bow like in the middle of that and know that 4 inches around is gonna get me a pretty good looking set of spikes for my bow. And that's how I do that, is I'll just measure how wide the bow is with my surround a bow and stuff on there like that, and then I will generally add an inch, so that will get you that full circle. Bigger bows might take just a little bit more, and the number of spikes you use depends on how big it needs to be. So for this one, for 4-inch spikes, I use 7 pieces. If you are going to go larger, you will need to expand. I will tell you that in order to get them to look pretty good and always like within that nice circle of the spikes, you want to use a odd number. So 5, 7, 9, 11, depending on how big you're going to make them. For my 4-inch ones, I use 7 pieces, and we're going to go ahead and do that. So, I cut, using my wood burner, measure on my glass board, and I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That off to the side. So then for this, I'm gonna cut my my V shapes first. You can. It is totally up to you to do it first or after. Sometimes I like to do it first. So doing it this way, I like to do them first. So then all I do is I just fold, meet the 2 edges together, and then fold in half again, so that both sides of my spike are going to be the same. They're going to have the same point. And then I'm going to cut just a little bit off the edge and then seal just like that. And I'm going to go around and I'm going to do them all. So we're just folding and snipping for the time being. When you do it, try to cut them as evenly as possible for each one so that your size isn't off at all. I'm pretty good at eyeballing, as you can tell. Mine are coming out to be the same size. If you need to measure, measure. If you can eyeball it, eyeball it. Or if you want to just leave them whole and then cut your little V-cuts for your spike after you've made the whole thing, that is totally up to you. This is how I like to do it. I will put a link in the description below for my first video in this, if you haven't seen it already, for all the tools that I use. Like I pointed out, my wood burner, super sharp scissors, my glass cutting board, all of these things are all linked in that video, where you can get them on Amazon. And if you have Amazon Prime, free 2-day shipping, can't go wrong with that. I will do that for this video. So there we have it. We have all of those. And then the next thing that I'm going to use, and I will put a link to my Facebook page where you can message me for this. I make these. It was kind of like my creation, really. It was something that I came up with many years ago when I first came into it, to hold things in place when I needed them to stay exactly where I wanted them. So we're going to use my little pin holder. So I'm going to do, I'm going to fold, and I'm just going to find the middle and pop it over my pin, just like that. So our first one goes long ways, and then as we go around, we just start setting them. So now, one thing I will tell you for this one, what I have noticed is if my first two ones go, I match point to point here to where the edges just barely overlap on the first two. Just like this, to where they're just overlapping the tips. Just like that. And then these next ones, as I'm going around, I take them and I take the edge of the one to the middle of the V-cut of the other one. So make sure both sides are right along that middle, and that's how I get this shape when I do them. So that's all I'm doing, is I'm just going around, lining everything up so that they're all in the place that I want them. And as you notice, I alternate as I'm going around. So there we go. Just making sure they're all lined up. Right there. I think I'm pretty good to go. Just making sure everything is all lined up. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold it on my pin holder like this, and I'm going to take a couple alligator clips because I don't want anything to shift when I go to take it off my pin holder. So I'm going to clip here. 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 And here. So now it's all together, holding all my pieces together so that when I take it off, I still have that and nothing shifted on me. And then I take my needle and thread, always upholstery thread, and I start at the point, as close to the point as I can get. And then right here to the edge of this one. And then right about here. And then right through the middle. Right about here. At the edge. Try to keep it all in a line. And I do these many stitches so that my center looks like this. I've done it a couple of different ways, and my center hasn't quite come out right, and this is why I like doing it this way. And then once I get it done, take all my clips off, and then I just cinch. I just pull real tight and cinch, and I wrap around, and I pull again, making sure my wrap was in the center because I don't want it off. And I pull, and then I flip it over to the back side, and I'm going to pull really tight without stabbing myself with my needle. And then just throw a knot or two in the back. my thread's getting kind of short, so it makes it a little bit harder to get my knots right. There we go. So then I just kind of give a little shimmy and a shake. And as you can tell, they're a little bit, this one I cut a little bit shorter, but they stay. Once you do it, everything comes and all that, and then the bow just goes over the top. And for me, all I do is take some glue and glue it together. And this one I'm going to leave like this without a side bow or anything. And then I put a clip on the back. And I never have an issue with mine falling apart. But if you want, you can also do this if you're concerned about them falling apart. But you still put a little bit of glue back here on the back side. You take your spikes and you put them on. And if you're going to put a base bow, you can put a base bow, but I don't always put base bows on them. Depends on what I'm making. This one I won't. You take this, and then you take some 1/4 inch ribbon, because it doesn't need to be super wide. Where's my end? There it is. This is brand new, so. So what we're going to do is we're going to just take some 1/4 inch ribbon. I'm going to seal the end right here. And then right here on the back, I'm just going to put a small amount of glue. Right here. And then you can just wrap around all the layers of the stuff that you glued together, like my Twisted Boutique bow, my surround bow, and my spikes. Just go around, pulling it a little bit tight, and snip, seal, and glue. Just like that, and just make sure everything is okay once you've already wrapped it, and then you can put a center on there. Me, I'm going to put a bottle cap center on this one. But there's that. And they're so easy and simple to do this way. But the way I do my spikes, I never have my spikes up every now and then, but then I take them off and redo them. But this way has always worked for me. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope it helped for you guys having a hard time measuring to get your spikes right, because it is a little bit. But if you just kind of follow that rule, like I said, 1 inch bigger than the bow is how long you want to cut your strips for your spikes. And you might have to, for the longer ones, you'll have to add more so that when you pull it and everything, when it fans out, there's no gaps. So you might want to add more. Like a 5-inch one, if I were to cut 5-inch spikes, I'd do like 9 strips. If I were to cut 6-inch spikes, I would do 11 strips. But it's always the same. And just measure your bow before you do your spikes, and then you can measure your size of your spikes. So again, I hope this helped, and I said I will leave a link to the video for all the different tools that I use, along with a link to my Facebook page. If you message me there, will be your best bet to get me. Sometimes I'm not seeing if you post it right on the wall of the page, but if you send me a message, I will see the message. So I will link all of that there. And once again, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to hit a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. And happy crafting!